Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit weird, and this all came about because not too long ago I was watching a streamer who stated Nekros is just good for farming and Hydroid does it better. And I spent quite a while in this streamer's stream trying to convince others, because they were all agreeing that Nekros is not just a farm frame. So I'm hopefully going to be pointing out a few things that Nekros can do other than just farm, but Hydroid's still better at that, which again is even disputable within itself. So to hopefully show this, I am in Mott solo, which I wanted to make a point of showing that because for some strange reason lots of people don't think Mott is doable past like 10-15 minutes. It is. This is a hour-long run that I did. I just recorded a bit of it just for shits and giggles. So here we are in Mott. I've already skipped the timer forward quite a bit. We're at about 30 minutes already, so already I've broken the myth that Mott can't be done for more than like 10-15 minutes at a time. Now, this streamer, who shall remain nameless, because to be honest, he's just expressing an opinion, so there's nothing wrong with expressing an opinion. My fault with this, where I drew issue, is stating that all something is good for is this very specific thing, which is not true. Nekros has some serious great value, not just solo, but in team composition as well. Yes, he can be used as a farm frame, and lots of people do state that Hydroid does it better. Now, arguably, that can be true as well as false. And by that I mean that Hydroid does have a 100% chance for extra loot drop upon the enemy dying from Tentacle Swarm with use of the mod Pilfering Swarm. The catch to this is they have to die from Pilfering Swarm. Now, at low levels, that is fine. Tentacle Swarm will kill quite a few things at low level. However, even with max power strength, the most your tentacles will do at an instant when they are spawned, they will do 4,173 damage, and the capture damage of them swinging around and slamming things is 746 per second, and then that obviously is then dependent on how long you have them out with this enemy in your grasp. At higher levels, that is nothing. That's pretty much, you might as well poke them with an unmodded friggin' MK1 Bratton. To be perfectly honest, that's doing nothing. So at higher levels, your chances of getting extra loot are 0%. With Nekros, it's anything and everything using Desecrate. As long as something has died, whether you kill it or an ally kills it, as long as something has died and it comes under the effect of Desecrate, it has a 60% chance to drop extra loot or a health orb. This health orb is also useful for keeping your team alive, so not just through farming are you then actually farming, you're also supporting. Because in survivals, this could be capsules, life support capsules. It could be an energy orb, which everybody loves. It could be a health orb, which for high levels are bloody well needed. Or it could just be that extra bit of loot you've always wanted. So in general, overall, particularly in things like survivals or in any sort of endurance run where the enemies start to scale, Nekros is going to be the better option. So Hydroid being the better farming frame, if you're doing it on Earth, maybe. Right, moving on to he's only good for such a thing. To a point, Nekros can act as DPS, simply just due to the fact that with the build I am using on my Nekros, I have a 5.5 multiplier on my shadow spawns, so they are doing 5.5 times the damage rate of this same enemy of that level. Now, I don't know about you, but bombards and heavy gunners start to hurt at certain points. Imagine them having a 5.5 multiplier on top of that. That's also really going to hurt. Admittedly, yes, enemy armor values do come into effect, etc, etc, but I do find it is enough to keep on top of the enemy and whittle down large mobs. Backtracking slightly to his support capabilities, as I've already said, Desecrate will also spawn health orbs and energy orbs and just general ammo, just things that will just help your allies in many ways. You can also get the augment for his one ability, which a lot of people that were in this stream were saying is his best augment. I'm afraid to say that on this one you are 100% wrong. I'm not going to say this augment is bad, but it is nowhere near his best. If anything, it's his worst and probably least used. Oh, it can revive an ally. Nekros is probably one of the tankiest frames in the game, and if you're using Vazarin, you can literally just walk up to the ally and revive them, regardless of what situation you're in, except if there's nullifiers about. But then if there's nullifiers about, your reviving soul punch isn't going to work anyway. And personally, if I was down and you revived me, I'd rather be back at full health rather than the percentage based health that the reviving soul punch would give me. That's just me personally. I would rather you just walked over to me and just held X for a little bit than press 1, hopefully hit, and revive me to 30% of my max health. I'd rather have 100%, thank you very much. Right, moving on to crowd control capabilities. This actually comes in 3 separate parts. You have immediate crowd control, as I like to call it, for those big, nasty, hefty things called bombards and heavy gunners. You look at them and you press 1 and they go bye-bye. They're immediately out of your face, and although this is single target, it's not there to deal damage, it's there just to get them away. You then have Terrify. Now, Terrify is amazing, especially with the augment, and I will be going into that in a little bit, but just overall, you press 2 and everything in your immediate vicinity turns tail and runs away from you, while also taking a decrease in armor, but we'll get into that when I cover it a bit later on. Now, the 4th bit of crowd control, and this isn't really so much as crowd control as it is just getting things off your back. For some strange reason, 1-on-1 with an enemy, if you also have a shadow out, the enemy will more likely try to hit the shadow than it will you. So in a way you could count this as crowd control, because things are not gunning for you as much. Your shadows do have a higher threat counter, so they are likely to take most of the brunt of the damage. Now, keeping on track with the 4th ability, we have his augment for it, which makes Nekros one of the tankiest frames in the game, flat out. Adding in other little perks you can use for the build, such as Despoil, Equilibrium and Health Conversion, you can literally make, prior to the mod sets coming out, Nekros was the tankiest frame in the game. Now, because of that, Chroma has taken the spot yet again, but not by much, by a sheer 1% damage mitigation overall. With Shield of Shadows and health conversion active, Nekros will have a 98.5 total damage mitigation. And just to show what that kind of looks like, we're going to compare it to a Chroma. Now, Chroma with a max power strength build, this is probably one of the most likely builds you'll come across as Chroma, because this is the same build Tactical Potato uses. Now, there are ways in which you could make this build tankier by use of increasing its actual base armor, steel fiber, armored agility, etc, etc, but that would mean you'd have to get rid of vitality, prime continuity, primed flow. So as an overall base, this is pretty much going to be the most sustainable and tankiest build you can get for Chroma. So we have, at base, using Stand United, 528 armor. Already this is 63.77 damage mitigation. From here you can add in Elemental Ward and it jumps straight up to 91%. Like I said, we've got max power strength, so we're doing all the calculations at max, and with Vex armor you get 99.26. So this is obviously very impressive. However, like I already said, health conversion gives you 3 stacks of 450. 450 times 3, add in the 65 base armor for Nekros, that is 1415, which is 82.51% damage. Now, the trick where this works is Shield of Shadows at max will give you flat 90% damage mitigation, so you're only taking 10% damage, and of that 10%, another 82.51 damage is mitigated. This all adds up to a grand total of 98.5 damage mitigation in total. This was a number that not even Chroma could originally reach until some of the later power strength mods, namely Augur Secrets. So yeah, Nekros is a very good tank. Chroma is a better tank by 1%. However, Chroma lacks a few certain things. When he's overwhelmed, he can't crowd control. Nekros can. Chroma is also weapon dependent, but very largely single target. You have a problem, you have to take them out one at a time. With Nekros, not so much. If you aim for your Bombards, your Gunners and your Eximus units and use them as shadows, they will generally be able to take care of the little guys in pretty much any mob. So your Butchers and your Lancers, your shadowed Bombards and Heavy Guns, they can generally and normally take care of them. So overall, through sheer capability, utility and tanking, Nekros overall kind of takes Chroma, Oberon and Nova and throws them into one. But he's just a farming frame, so don't actually use him, people. He's only good for farming. And now that I have mentioned Nova, there's a very specific reason for this, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail of his Terrify. As I was stating earlier, I wanted to go a bit more into Terrify, particularly as well the Augment. Now, the reason for this is Terrify, along with the Augment Creeping Terrify, is very akin to Nova's Molecular Prime. Now, Terrify has the capability to essentially, you scare the enemy, they turn around and they run away. while running away, or while under the effect of Terrify, really I should say, they have their armour reduced up to 74.6%, which is basically 75%. So from flat damage, they are taking 75% more. This ability can also stack. So, if you don't have corrosive projections in your team, you can compensate for that with Terrify. Helpful. Now, adding in Creeping Terrify, this can also slow them up to 60%. So not only are they running away, they are slowed, as well as have a massive armor reduction. With Molecular Prime, they come under the effect of a wave. This does no damage to them, obviously neither does Creeping Terrify, and they are slowed up to 75%, so it's a bit more of a slow effect. And they also take a massive increase in damage. Now, the part where this actually gets a little bit interesting, and it's kind of a trade-off situation, is all damage done to the enemies under the effect of Molecular Prime take a 200% increase in damage. As well as, when they die, they can deal massive blast damage in an explosion in an area which is affected by your ability range, but essentially you can cause a chain reaction. Upon killing one enemy, you can kill an entire mob, because this blast damage will do X amount, which is then added into the 200% buff from them being affected by Molecular Prime. If they are, this can literally just cause a chain reaction. However, the switch to this is they're still running towards you. They might be slowed, but they're still running towards you. They are still shooting you, and at high levels, it doesn't matter whether they have rapid fire or not. It just takes that one shot to kill you. With Creeping Terrify, they're running away. They're not shooting at you, they are running away. So it's a bit of a trade-off. To me, they both work very, very similar. It all just depends on the situation. Novas will affect everything that is captured within the radius of Molecular Prime. With Creeping Terrify, or just Terrify, at max it will only affect 74 enemies, and that is the 74 closest to you. So if new enemies then enter the area where the Terrify was cast, they will not magically end up under the effect of Terrify. So it is a trade-off, and it all depends on how you want to work it. But this does mean that both of them have great utility as well as crowd control within a team composition, or even solo. This might sound like I'm being a little bit nitpicky, and sort of I might have taken this to heart. I will admit, when this streamer first said that all Nekros is good for, and this streamer's followers all agreed with him that Nekros is useless, he's just for farming, but Hydroid does farming better, I did look a little bit like this guy. And even more so when trying to explain that this is not the case, perhaps you should just try different builds, different ways of playing him, and I was getting nowhere. I mean, he is my favourite frame. I want everyone to feel the love of Nekros, but obviously everyone has their favourite picks. Someone doesn't always see things the way you see them, or understand how you do things. I will admit a lot of Warframe is purely down to playstyle. You can mix and match different builds, or even use the same builds as a lot of other people, and they might not work for you because the playstyle you are using and encompassing with that build just doesn't flow with the build or playstyle, or vice versa. Bit of a weird way to say that, but screw it. So I was weirdly, for once in my life, trying to be polite about this, because this was a streamer doing the streamy things, this is his space, and I was trying to just explain that Nekros is genuinely amazing. You just sort of need to give him a chance and try different things with him. He's not a easy frame to get used to, especially in which the way you've got to play him, because you've got to manage your health, particularly because you're using Despoil, your energy, because with a large styled tank build using Shield of Shadows, he is very expensive to run through energy costs. And not just that, but you need to micromanage not just the numbers of shadows you have, the level of the shadows that you have, as well as their health. You have a lot going on there. You might notice that on occasion I do just randomly stop on occasion and just look towards one of my shadows. That's basically me just taking a second just to process everything, how many shadows I have, making sure I do have the max damage mitigation, the 90% up in the top right, because if I don't have the stack from growing power from having a status proc, the damage mitigation I actually get is 81%, and then obviously of that 19% of damage that goes through me, that is then mitigated by my armor further, but that does drop me down to a grand total of approximately 91% damage mitigation overall, which is only 1% higher than the max that shadows can give you in general. Now, I will admit I am at some point looking to change my Nekros build so that I can use other things and push towards a more viable build now that a lot more mods have come out, particularly in the way of the set mods, to hopefully try and get a more optimized build, but that's just something I've not got around to yet. And when that does happen, I will be showing, but for the moment I'm just sort of hoping I can convince quite a few people that Nekros is not just a farm frame. He is detrimental to team survivals at high levels. You will be needing his Desecrate for the life support. He does have CC, DPS and support capabilities. He has great utility through his crowd control and armor stripping. He has great survivability through being at the moment the second tankiest frame in the game, just by a drop of a mere 1%, and I am afraid to say that that 1%, when that 1% matters, or when you think it's going to matter, it's not. When it gets to those sorts of levels, the enemy's not going to go, oh, you've got 1% more damage mitigation. It's still going to be, you're dead. Anyway, that's me. I hope you haven't mind me moaning too much. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you pretty darn soon. Ta-ra!